Hello, Snugglebugs. Welcome to today's Hearthstone video. We're coming at you with a little bit of Mage card review for the Titans expansion coming up. Honestly, I think it's actually just maybe next week, so we'll have to try to get these up before then. So thank you for sticking with us through these, and I'm looking forward to the gameplay. First up, we're going to go a little quick like we have been here. 2-mana 2/2 Aqua Archivist. Apologies. Battlecry, the next elemental you play costs 2 less. So in an elemental deck in a weird way, like down the line, you can almost look at this like a 2-mana or 0-mana 2/2. Of course, you can't play it for 0 mana, but you get enough discount that in a way it can be. Honestly, obviously just a pretty great card. Any kind of mana discount is great. I don't really know what other elementals, maybe we'll get into some. As you know, these are blind sort of reactions from me. Quick, blind, how do we think they're going to do? So depending on what other elementals might be coming in the Titans package, that might play into it. There's already a couple decent elementals, so maybe that's just enough to auto-include these. If there's anything really good, I think this almost becomes like a, auto-include in any deck that plays those elementals, of course. Next up, we have the new Chugga. It's definitely a power creep, 2-mana, 2/3 magnetic, freeze any character damaged by this minion. Snow Chugger, I believe, came out a long time ago, maybe Goblins versus Gnomes, which was just a 2/3 for 2 that freeze any character without the magnetic, so this is literally just that much better. That being said, stat line's great. I know it's been a long time since the that other Chugga was out, but it was one of the best cards at the time. I can't see this really being that much different. Mage could just be played without the magnetic aspect on it as well. This card is just really good across the board. Next up, we have our first spell, 1-mana Discovery of Magic. Discover a spell from a spell school you haven't cast this game. Now, I haven't looked at all the other cards, but I'm pretty sure that I've seen a few, leaks and things that is kind of a archetype they're trying to bring back a bit into Mage with this expansion. So if that's the case, this could be really good to get different spell types. Now, of course, the whole idea is this is not a spell type to avoid you from, likely, if this was Arcane, this might prevent you from then discovering an Arcane spell, although it does feel like an Arcane spell to me. But honestly, just a 1-mana Discover, I think it's going to be played in almost every class, even not in a spell cool, or not class, every Mage deck, even not a spell school Mage deck. Really powerful card. First up on the note of the different spell schools, we have a 7-mana spell, so big spell here, called Elemental Inspiration. Summon a 4/5 Vortex with a random bonus effect for each spell school you've cast this game. So it's going to summon either Divine Shield, Taunt, Rush, Wind Fury, Stealth, Poisonous. And the way this reads to me is it's not the effect alone that multiplies. So say you played 3 different spell schools, you're actually going to get 3 4/5s, so 3 Chillwind Yetis in effect, with 3 separate effects. So honestly, I think 2 would make this card playable. If you could ever make sure that you always had 3 spell schools played before you played this, 7-mana 3 4/5s with effects is incredibly strong. I think the only downside to a card like this is if somehow you bricked and you didn't play any spell schools, somehow, it becomes a nothing, because technically it could possibly do nothing. It might hinder your Discover pool. It itself doesn't have a spell school, but I can't see that ever really coming up. I think so far the Mage cards that we've looked at, the first 4, have all looked to be very powerful, and I think it's going to help Mage really kick off in this expansion. Next up, another Mage card. We have the Inquisitive Creation, also with the spell schools. Deal 1 damage to all enemy minions, and then improve that for each different spell school you've played. So again, let's go under the idea that maybe you've played 3 different spell schools. This becomes a 3/4 for 4, which, not, great stats, obviously, but then deal 3 damage AoE. Or actually, it's default 1, so if you played 3, looks like it would actually do 4 AoE to all enemy minions, making it a pretty cheap board clear, as well as the fact it becomes a 3/4 on board, and itself is a mech, so then you can magnetize to it afterwards if you wish. Again, I think this maybe we're looking at a spell school mech package, potentially, that'll be really good, or this is just going to be an auto include, because almost every Mage deck plays, there's at least Arcane, usually at least Fire, sometimes the Ice when it comes to freezing, so you're looking at almost always playing 3 spell schools anyway, so this will just become a nice board clear in almost any Mage deck, I feel. Then we have our Forge card for Mage, Molten Rune, 3-mana, deal 3, and get a random spell. And if you forge it, which, remember, for those who don't know, I guess I should say, it's if you put it over your deck, costs 2 mana, you forge it, upgrades, so you cast the spell twice, so you'll deal 6 damage and get 2 random spells. Honestly, 3-mana deal 3, obviously not great, but if you look at it depending on what random spell you get. You cost that, say, about half a mana, usually for random stuff, especially where there's so many spells in Mage. You could look at this as like 2.5 mana deal 3 damage, so slightly worse than, say, most 2 mana deal 3. The Forge effect makes it so it's effectively a 5 mana deal 6, get 2 cards. That makes it a little bit more appealing. Definitely strange as this is, because it's got good value and, you know, deal 3 damage. For some reason, I don't know. Forged, I feel like this will be really strong, but I'm not entirely sure this will replace other spells that already exist. First legendary here on for this one is Sith, the 6 mana 4/6 spell damage +1 improved by each spell school you've cast this game. So again, you know, so you play 3 different spell schools, all of a sudden this becomes a spell damage +4 legendary minion. Then maybe you play this on 10 with a bunch of cheap spells afterwards to just sort of melt your opponent's face. Oh, excuse me. Again, it depends. I'm sure there's going to be OTKs in this that I personally don't see coming, so for that factor, I'm going to have to, again, say this is probably pretty powerful. At face value, I can see a lot of times people trying to play this on 6 or 7, hoping it survives with spell damage +3 or +4, and then it just dies and doesn't really get to do anything. So, in the Arcane Burn Mage, where you get a bunch of those 1 mana, eventually deal 3 with the Mana Thirst, and if this is spell damage +4, also then become like 1 mana 7 damage, you get 4 of them in your hand, you play this on turn 10, like I said, you smash them for 4 times 7 for 28 for like an over-the-top burn. Plus, who knows, maybe you have the 5/5 Death Rattle on here to give it another spell damage +2, so maybe it's upwards to spell damage +6. So it's gonna be good in those sort of OTK long-term combo burn decks, but I also feel like it's going to be a lot harder to pull off than it sounds. We'll just have to wait and see. Next up, we do have our first elemental to go, first elemental to go along with the discount elemental, the Unchained Gladiator. A 4 mana 4/4 battle cry, draw a card, and repeat for each elemental you played last turn. So you have your 2 mana 2/2, you could play that. In theory, next turn play this for 2 mana. Technically, it means you have 1 mana left over, but then it becomes a 2 mana 4/4 draw card. Draw 2 cards, technically, because you draw a card base, and then you draw an additional card. So right there alone, I'm seeing some synergies that could go really well for this deck. Yes, it leaves you with 1 extra mana. Who knows? Maybe you'll fill that with that Discovery of Magic mana spell card or something along those lines. Just a good card. 4 mana 4/4, decently statted. Obviously 4/5, it would be more typical. Battlecry draw, even a single card really is pretty good. Means it cycles itself. And then any elemental you played the turn before just makes it like that much better. Picture you draw 2 cards with this, right? Which is, I would assume if you're playing elementals of some kind, is pretty common. 3 mana draw 2 is already played in Arcane Intellect and Mage, so you add 1 mana to effectively add a 4/4 body attached to an already played card. You know, I think that's really good. Wisdom of Norgannon, more draw power in the Mage here. We have draw 2 cards and cost 1 less for each different spell school you've cast this game. So I know I'm using an arbitrary number, so apologies, because it could be less, could be more. But again, let's say you play 3 different spell schools before you play Wisdom of Norgannon, and all of a sudden it's a 2 mana draw 2 cards. And again, with the example we just gave, as long as you can get this down to 3 mana, it's going to be worth playing. I feel like if you play this in the right deck, you could easily get this down to 2 mana. And then, of course, if by the time you get it to 2 mana, if you haven't played an arcane spell, your next Wisdom of Norgannon would only cost 1. Realistically, I can see people playing at least 4 different kinds of spell schools in a deck like this, and being able to get this down to at least 3, if not 2 mana would be really good. And then, of course, if you get down to 1, obviously even better. Grave Digging is played a ton in the Undead Priest for that reason. This might be a little bit more difficult of a condition to pull off to get it down to 1 mana, but still viable and a good card. Last but not least, we have the Titan for Mage. We have Norgannon. He is a 6 mana 3/8. So we're going to do a quick check on what the Titans do. So when you play a Titan, you get to pick one of its 3 abilities. Every turn from there, you get to use one of the other 2 remaining abilities, and of course the last one. Titans cannot attack until all 3 of their abilities are used. So just trying to clear that up. I know that's brief, but at this point, hopefully most of us have an idea of what Titans do. If not, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try to explain it a bit better. After this uses an ability, you double the power of the rest of the abilities. So what that means is, its first ability here is deal 5 damage. So let's say you play Ancient Knowledge first when you first play this down. Your enemy's cards cost 1 more to play, maybe trying to prevent them from destroying your Norgannon. Next turn, when you play Progenitor's Power, it deals 10 damage instead because it's doubled. And this has actually been confirmed that if they go let's say Ancient Knowledge, make their cards cost 1 more. Second turn, play Unlimited Potential to get 2 secrets at that point because, maybe that gives you things that counter your opponent's plays, counterspell, objection, or something like that. So this lives to the third turn. Progenitor's Power will in fact deal 20 damage. Now, one thing I don't know for certain is if that's targetable damage, because it doesn't say to a random enemy. But where it's not actually a spell in your hand, I'm not sure if it's like you click it and then you can drag to a target. If you can, obviously this card would be one of those ones where the goal is to play it and try to keep it alive for 3 turns to hit your opponent for 20 damage. Even if you can get the 10 damage out, to be fair, it becomes a 6 mana with all of its other stuff and a Pyroblast. So, I mean, it's all really powerful. Titans, I'm excited for. I think they're all pretty powerful. I think they're all going to effectively shake up the game a bit, make it really tricky to know what your opponent's about to do because of all the different things they can do with the different Titan abilities in the game. I'm excited for this expansion. I hope it brings back that passion I have for the game. I've been playing it since beta. And anyways, hopefully you're excited. Let me know in the comments down below if you are. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next one.